Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to film outside today because it's beautiful, but I honestly don't think you'd be able to hear me over the wind. So I set myself up in front of a window instead. And today's video is going to be all about buying versus renting versus building here in Nicaragua. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Allison. I currently post content on this channel surrounding our relocation from Canada to Nicaragua. It's been 6 months now, fastest 6 months of my life. It's been crazy. If you're interested in that kind of content, the subscribe button is down below. I also leave my Instagram and my TikTok linked down below. Okay, so I've been compiling a list of frequently asked questions that I get here on these videos, and I'm going to try and go through them over the next few weeks. But if you have any other questions about anything, relocating specific, feel free to leave it down below and I will do my best to answer. But I'm honestly in awe at how many of you have found me. I don't know if it's specifically from Nicaragua or just relocating in general, and have found my videos useful. I think that's awesome. I'm not an expert, just sharing my opinion, but I love hearing your guys' feedback or hearing that you're also thinking of relocating. I think that's so cool. I've also met 4 of you now in person, which is nuts. I mean, I've been on YouTube for like 12 years now, and I have met a couple subscribers over the 12 years that I've been on YouTube, but not as many like so close together and for the same topic. And I met them here in town, the place that I actually make the videos about. I've met them in town, which I think is so cool. If you do decide to come visit San Juan del Sur, definitely let me know. I'd love to say hello, meet you, go out for lunch, whatever you want to do. I just think that's awesome. So I thought I'd mention that off the bat. If I've met you in person, thank you for saying hi. Okay, so back to buying versus renting versus building. I get a lot of questions surrounding this topic. I just kind of wrote down some things that immediately come to mind, but I feel like I could probably go in more depth on any of these. So again, if you have more questions, let me know. But I'm going to start with buying because that is what we decided to do. And I'm kind of going to give you the pros and cons of each situation, or just things that we've found out about. So with buying, obviously the pro is that you own the property. You don't have to pay rent because you bought it outright and you own it. So that's obviously a pro to buying. However, one thing, and I get a lot of questions about this, is are there loans available, mortgages available for properties here in Nicaragua? And unfortunately, the answer to that is no. So if you are deciding to buy here, and I believe that's the same for most of Central America, I could be wrong on that, but you do have to have the cash up front for the purchase. For the most part, I have seen a number of listings. I would say there's less of them now because the demand is so high, but I have seen some listings where owners offer owner financing. So you can definitely look out for that. But for the most part, people are just buying cash in hand. Now, obviously we sold our home in Canada and that's how we were able to finance this. But that is a big kind of drawback to, obviously, if you decided you wanted to buy in Nicaragua, there's no option for a mortgage. So I wanted to say that up front. That being said, prices on homes or condos or whatever you're looking at, land here, so much more affordable compared to where I came from anyways, Canada. In the Kelowna region, but the Vancouver region too. I mean, prices are just ridiculously high and still climbing. And I know that's the case for a lot of Canada and the US as well. So prices are definitely a lot lower here. And that can make purchasing something, if you already own something in Canada and the US and you sell it, definitely feasible. So there is a pro on that. Another pro, and one of the reasons we kind of lean towards buying versus any other option, is that once you own the house, you don't have to move around. Whereas if you were renting, the lease could be up and they could be renting to somebody else, or they could decide to sell the house out and your lease would be ending. And same with building. I mean, that was, and I'll get into that when I talk about building, but that was one of our deciding factors, was just the fact that we knew once we got here, specifically with an autistic child, it was really important to us to settle her and stay in the same location. So that was really a big swaying factor for us. And then the last thing I wrote down for, I mean, there's lots of benefits to buying here, but is that the property is yours, so you can do what you want with it. So we've been able to start various gardens here, plant different fruit trees, add an addition, things like that, add on space. So it's fully yours to customize and use the land. Now there are of course drawbacks to owning a property, and that is for the same reason. You own the whole property and the land, therefore everything is your responsibility. And that's the same with any country, that's no different here. But when you buy a property, I mean, we did get a house inspection done on this and not everything came up on the house inspection. So there are some differences between house inspections here and back home, and they're done a little bit differently. So there were definitely some expenses when we moved in here that we were not anticipating, not planning on. There were a number of things that were just kind of maintained bare minimum. Mind you, this was a rental. It wasn't, someone wasn't living here full time. So it's kind of like they just kept it up enough to keep it as a rental, but not enough for the use of a full-time family here. So there definitely were some big expenses up front, and we're finding out new expenses all the time, the joys of owning a home. So yeah, you're also on the hook, of course, same with back home, but property taxes, although they are a lot lower here. I should have looked up what they were because somebody asked me and I didn't remember. I know they are quite low, and it's on the assessed value. They usually assess the value of the home a lot lower than it actually is. So the property taxes aren't a huge deal. And then if you're part of a community, like we're part of a development, there are HOA fees as well, so responsible for that. But as far as actually buying the house, it was very similar to back home. Lawyers were involved. They took care of all the paperwork, all the things, all the boxes that needed to be checked, things that needed to be checked out as far as land titles and whatnot. Wire transfer was done from our bank back in Canada straight down to here. Lawyers took care of it on both ends. So we felt very comfortable about the actual buying procedure. There were no red flags along the way, anything like that. So the buying process was very, very similar. If you want a whole specific video on the buying process, let me know. I'll have to kind of do some research, or by that I mean talk to my husband about the details I wasn't involved in, but it was a very easy process and very similar to back home. Okay, moving on to renting, and this is by far the most popular option for families or couples or singles that are currently moving down here or currently living here. Renting by far is, I would definitely say, the most popular. And some pros that I wrote down to renting is great if you're not staying a long time. If you're just coming down for, 6 months, you're just coming down for a year, you're not sure if this is your forever home or if you want to be here for a longer period of time, renting is definitely the way to go. It's also obviously the way to go if you don't have cash in hand to buy something, then your option is to rent. And there are a wide variety of rentals here. I'm kind of hesitant because yes, there are so many different rentals as far as studio suites, condos, apartments, townhouses, houses, acreages, ranches, there's lots of different opportunities. However, the town right now is just booming with not only tourists, but people that are relocating and are continuing to relocate here. So I'm hearing that rentals are at an all-time low as far as availability. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. There are lots of configurations for rentals, things that you can rent. It's just locking in that rental and making sure it's available when you need it. It's obviously a lot less expensive than buying or building a property. So that is a huge win, is to rent. And it's a great opportunity to kind of explore the different areas. So if you do think you want to be here or wherever you're relocating somewhere more long-term, but you're just not sure what community you want to be in, it's a great way to kind of check them out. So you could stay, there are rentals here in this community, you could stay here for a few months, you could go to the other side of town for a few months, you could go more inland, you could go more beachfront, and kind of figure out what areas you like the best. And downsized rentals, like I already mentioned, the availability of rentals can be an issue, absolutely, specifically if you have really specific needs. If you're more you don't have to have an ocean view, or you don't have to have a certain amount of land, or you don't care what area of town you're located in, then not so much. But yeah, availability is an issue. The fact that it could be sold out from under you. So just like our house was a rental, I believe it was both short and long-term rental, the house was also on the market at the same time. So a lot of rentals, you'll kind of go into knowing that it's on the market, and if it sells, you have to find a different place to rent. And just like I was mentioning with buying, you can't actually change anything about the house or the property. So, I mean, you can't technically build a garden. I guess you could always ask the landlord if they're interested in that, or you could just do pots and things that aren't permanent. Obviously you can't add an addition or do any major changes on the inside. It's just not yours. So pros and cons there. And the last one is building. And this is one we were heavily considering before we moved down here. We were actually really close to just being like, you know what, because we found, if you watch my travel vlog, we found a double lot that we absolutely love. It's up the hill from us. I think it's sold now, sadly. It was so beautiful. It had the most beautiful view and trees. And we really wanted to do it, but just for our own family needs, we weren't going to be able to rent and wait for it to be built. Again, we wanted to get here and settle and make life as low-key as possible, as quickly as possible. But we were really, really considering it. One of the pros to building is obviously you get to customize everything. You get to pick the land that you build on, what your view is going to be like, how much land that you have, what the grade of your land is like. And then you get to pick what you're going to build, how many stories, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what you want the finishes to look like. It's absolutely custom. So huge win there. You can also incorporate things like solar, which if you are considering building, I would highly recommend, because like I'm going to be talking about in a budget video coming up, electricity here is more expensive. And so as part of our addition that we're building, we are incorporating solar. So that it can bring our electricity bill down. So, but things like that, you can plan, you know, right from the start as far as what you want incorporated in your home. I mean, the sky is the limit. So yeah, lots of pros to building custom. However, lots of downsides as well. I wrote, again, I'm looking down because I wrote notes here. The time, it's going to take some time. So we're building a bedroom with a bathroom and a den. Not very big. And the construction started the beginning of December. We are now approaching the end of March. So what's that, 4 months? And it should be done by the end of April. So that's what we're looking at timeline. We were quoted a little bit less than that. We were quoted more like 3 to 4 months, but we didn't have any major delays or anything. We've had workers here, multiple workers here, 6 days a week consistently since it started. So we're not complaining by any means that our project got put on hold or anything like that. That's just how long it took for a bedroom, bathroom, and a den. When we were looking at building a full home, we were consistently being quoted a year, and knowing how construction goes, we knew it could easily take longer than that. So there's the time to build the home. Then there's finding a reliable builder. I do have several people that have been recommended to me that are highly, highly recommended, including the builder that I'm using myself that I'm super happy with. But that being said, there are definitely non-trustworthy or reliable builders out there, and you could find yourself in a situation where you're halfway through a project and things are just going south, or your builder, you just not around, or things are not staying on timeline or budget, or I mean, that can happen in any country, but that's definitely could be a con. And then unpredictable expenses. Building often takes longer than you anticipate and more money than you anticipate. And we're not building something that large, like I said, but we've definitely come into it taking longer and more expensive than we initially had in mind. So that's kind of just something you have to go into if you're going to build. You're going to end up with something that's custom and you absolutely love, but it's going to take time to get there and probably more money than you think. So that's basically why I find this question hard to answer when someone types it to me, because it's somewhat of a long-winded answer, and I honestly don't think that there is a perfect solution. And I think the solution is going to be different for whatever your family's or your personal needs are. There are pros and cons to both buying, renting, and building, and it just, you have to keep in mind, you know, how much time you have, how much money you have, and I guess what your priorities are. But I hope that was kind of a general overview. Again, I feel like a lot of this can be the same for any country, but these are just thought process that we went through before deciding to buy and then build an addition. So we kind of somewhat did both of them. So anyways, if you have any questions at all, let me know. I'm going to record a couple more videos now that you'll see over the next few weeks. And if you want me to record more, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.